It began the way these things always do, with an accident that didn't feel like an accident at all. A caver named Michael Holloway went missing in the Guadalupe Mountains of New Mexico, not far from Carlsbad. The official story was that he slipped, got wedged into a tight crevice, and never made it out. But the ones who found him said otherwise. They said they heard him screaming from deep inside the limestone tunnels a full day after he should have been dead, screaming about something waking up. Something made of metal and shadows and teeth. No one talked about what they pulled out of that hole afterward. No one talked about the way his body had been stripped of all moisture like a dried husk, or how his fingernails were broken down to the beds as if he'd tried to claw his way back to the surface. The search team went silent, and the park officials shut down the area. But you know how people are, tell them something's off limits and they start wanting to poke around. That's how Elliot Graves ended up leading a small team of archaeologists into the cavern 6 months later, funded by a university grant and his own gnawing curiosity. There were whispers that the caves went deeper than anyone thought, that they weren't just caves at all, but something else, something buried. Elliot didn't believe in ghosts or ancient curses, but he did believe in lost civilizations and things history forgot or tried to forget. And when he saw the first carvings on the walls, his breath caught in his throat. They weren't petroglyphs, weren't anything that should be there at all. The lines were too precise, the curves too clean, as if they'd been etched with machines, not crude stone tools, and in places the rock had been cut away completely, leaving smooth metallic surfaces embedded in the walls. It didn't make sense. There were no records of metallurgy in North America that old, but there it was, humming faintly beneath his fingertips, as if waiting for something, waiting for him. They pressed forward deeper, past chambers filled with carvings that shifted when you weren't looking straight at them, past tunnels where the air smelled of rust and something sickly sweet. Then they found the first machine. At first they thought it was a fossil, some prehistoric skeleton twisted by time, but then the light hit it just right, and they saw the gears, the impossibly intricate network of metal veins running through the stone. They spent hours excavating it, carefully brushing away layers of sediment, and when they finally pulled it free, they realized it wasn't a machine at all. It was a piece of one, something much larger. Something buried beneath their feet. Then the ground trembled. Not an earthquake, not a collapse, but something else, a rhythmic pulsing that made their teeth ache, like standing too close to high voltage wires. The deeper they went, the worse it got, and when they reached the cavern at the heart of the complex, everything changed. The chamber was massive, cathedral-like, but instead of stalactites and flowstone, there were towers of dark metal spires, humming with an energy that felt ancient and hungry. A door stood in the center, a massive slab of black stone covered in markings that looked like they were still being carved before their eyes, shifting, rearranging themselves, as if responding to their presence. Elliot's hand moved before his mind could catch up, pressing against the surface of the door, and the moment his fingers touched it, the air shuddered around him. The humming grew into a roar. The walls trembled, dust rained from the ceiling. Then the door slid open. What lay beyond was not a tunnel, not another chamber. It was a city stretching endlessly into the darkness, buildings of smooth black stone, twisted towers covered in gears and pipes, some still leaking something thick and silver into the streets, and in the center of it all a massive structure like an altar, like a throne. The machines stirred. They had been waiting. And now they were waking up.